Why are some historical figures remembered, while others are forgotten? Major General Henry Havelock was the toast of the nation in 1857. One of the British heroes of the Indian Mutiny, Havelock died after the relief of the city of Lucknow. Such was the fame of the devout Christian soldier, Parliament approved the erection of his statue in Trafalgar Square, which still stands today. A decade ago, however, Mayor Ken Livingstone complained that most Londoners had no idea who Havelock was. The memory of Captain Scott, who died in Antarctica 100 years ago, has fared much better than Havelock's. The centenary of Scott's last expedition has generated a wave of books, events, radio broadcasts and television documentaries over the last 2 years, including BBC Two's fronted by modern celebrity explorer Ben Fogle, a major new exhibition at the Natural History Museum, and a national memorial service at St. Paul's Cathedral. Scott's exploits in the uninhabited continent of Antarctica are free of the troubling associations which surround many other imperial heroes. Should the statue of a man known primarily for subjugating India still stand in the center of a city where over 1 in 10 of the inhabitants have roots in South Asia? As with so many aspects of our imperial past, Britons have found it easier to ignore and forget rather than confront such difficult questions. In part, of course, Scott is remembered today because his last expedition is such a great story, the drama of the race with Norwegian Roald Amundsen, the heartbreaking arrival at the South Pole a month too late, the agonizing suspense of the return march, the tragic end only 11 miles from a supply depot which would have saved them. Yet a great story alone offers no guarantee of remembrance. Ernest Shackleton's Endurance expedition and his incredible boat journey to South Georgia were surprisingly neglected in Britain until the end of the 1990s. Elsewhere, I have emphasized the significance of Scott's own words to his continued remembrance. The message to the public Scott wrote at the back of his journal remains one of the ultimate expressions of bravery in the face of death. Scott's journals are on permanent display as one of the treasures of the British Library. The centenary celebrations would have been far less extensive if a search party had not found the journals in November 1912. But visual iconography has also proved essential to sustaining Scott's story. His decision-making has been widely criticized, most savagely in Roland Huntford's classic debunking biography, London, 1979. Scott deserves great credit, though, for his appointment of Herbert Ponting as the expedition's self-styled camera artist. Ponting's early life remains obscure, but we know he abandoned his family to pursue a full-time career in photography. He later observed that he wouldn't even recognize his own son if he walked past him on the street. Ponting exposed around 25,000 feet of film and 2,000 photographic negatives in the Antarctic. Rarely, if ever, has an expedition been documented so thoroughly and so beautifully. Publishers and filmmakers today can be confident of the availability of rich visual resources for any new Scott project, with striking photographs of the central characters, wildlife and Antarctic environment. Ponting frequently juxtaposed awe-inspiring natural features with tiny human figures, presenting the Antarctic as a medieval fortress besieged by brave polar knights. In 1914, Ponting mounted a hugely successful series of illustrated lectures about the expedition at the Philharmonic Hall, performing in front of 100,000 people in only 2 months. The lectures proved so successful, King George V invited him to give a special performance at Buckingham Palace. Ponting had the misfortune, however, of purchasing the complete rights to the expedition's film record from the Gaumont Company just before the outbreak of the First World War. Ponting would spend much of the next 2 decades attempting to exploit his Antarctic work, but never matched the success of the Philharmonic Hall lectures. Although his work continues to shape visual representations of Antarctica, Ponting did not take the most famous photograph of Scott's last expedition. The explorers themselves exposed 10 plates at the South Pole. In one they appear to slouch around Amundsen's tent like rock stars on an album cover. Henry Bowers pulled the cord which took the most iconic image of the Antarctic disaster. This photograph remains the most frequently reproduced, 5 grim faces marked by hardships endured and the certain knowledge of hardships to come, the forlorn Union Jack a reminder of their defeat. The survival of this remarkable photograph helps explain the enduring appeal of Scott's story. In 2000, Hello magazine published 2 special editions celebrating the 20th century in pictures, an heirloom to treasure. Scott, Bowers, Evans, Oates and Wilson stared out from the front cover.